There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hey everybody, welcome to this new episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast, episode 29. I'm so excited to be sitting down and talking Star Wars with you guys, again, our favorite thing in the world. And thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I've got a hell of a show lined up for this evening. I've got a couple of very good friends on the show with me this week. First off, you guys know him from the War of the Stars podcast. It is Mark Tolly. How you doing tonight, Mark?
I am doing good, and that I am good and ready to talk about Star Wars. I have spoken.
We have got a lot to talk about tonight. I mean, you're on the perfect podcast to be talking Star Wars, buddy. I'll tell you that. I've also got with me a good friend of mine. He is the admin of the Facebook page Cinnamon. Wow, look at this. Stop it, Cinnamon. I'm already messing up. Cinema Masters. Gosh, my good friend Danny Sanderson. How you doing tonight, brother?
Hello there.
Jitteru Kenobi. Hey, so we have got a serious episode lined up for you guys tonight. And honestly, the main topic of this one is simply going to be The Mandalorian. So we're going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2. And for those of you that don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about Mandalorian and not talk about spoilers. Because it's really, if you want to do a non-spoiler review, you just simply say, it's a really good episode, it had this tone, this feel, and this to it. But that's no fun. Let's talk spoilers with The Mandalorian. So we're going to be going full-blown spoilers. So I'm going to let everybody know ahead of time. I'll let you guys know when to skip ahead to where the spoilers are over. I'll put that in the description of this video, of this podcast, so you guys can skip straight past anything you guys haven't seen yet, because there's some serious spoiler stuff in The Mandalorian, more than I was even expecting. So we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian, and then we've got 3 mailbag questions tonight that we're going to kind of give our thoughts on. It probably won't be too long of an episode, but it'll be real fun to sit around and talk some Star Wars for a while. But before we get into Star Wars, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. The Star Wars Canon Podcast app, mobile application, is coming. It's going to be here hopefully by the end of the year. I'm working on it real hard right now. If you guys want to see what it looks like, you can head over to the Patreon page for the Star Wars Canon Podcast, and you can find it there. There's a link to an app previewer, I guess you could say, where you guys can kind of mess around with it, test the functionality of it, whatnot. So definitely head over there and check that out. And the other thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into Star Wars, take just one more second of your time. For those of you that don't know, I was in the United States Army, so there's a cause that I've tried to get behind, and it's veteran suicide. It's something that means a lot to me. Something that hits kind of close to home. A few months ago, I had a friend of mine that I served with commit suicide. He hung himself. So it's one of those things that really hits close to home, and I'm trying to kind of raise awareness for it. If you guys want, there's a website called the Till Valhalla Project. You can go check out. There's a veteran that puts together different bracelets. I'm wearing one right now. Bracelets, dog tags, T-shirts, stuff like that, in honor of veterans and trying to raise awareness for veteran suicide. And he sells all of those on the website. All the proceeds go towards making memorials for veterans. So it's something that I would really appreciate it if you guys could check out. You don't have to, but it'd really mean a lot to me if you guys did. So all the doom and gloom out of the way. You guys ready to talk some Star Wars?
I'm ready when you are, man.
All right, let's talk some Star Wars. So as I said, The Mandalorian is the main topic this week. Disney Plus launched this past week. And, a little bit of a rocky start. But overall, before we get into The Mandalorian, what do you guys think of Disney Plus? Well, actually, Mark, you don't have it yet, do you?
No, I don't.
Danny does, though.
I do.
You do? What do you think about Disney Plus so far, Danny?
I like it. I like the content they've added. I've liked that they've put some shows on there that I haven't seen. See, I never grew up, I used to have DirecTV, but we got rid of it when I got into the 4th grade. So I missed out on a lot of some of the shows, movies, stuff. So, I can catch up on, I'm checking out Gravity Falls, and I am laughing so hard at that show. And to see some of
Gravity
the
Falls
Clone
is one
Wars
of those cartoons that's more like it's more for adults than it is the kids.
and then seeing all the I've been because basically what I do when I get home from work, I've been watching Mandalorian if it's a new episode, but I'll watch some Gravity Falls. I'll bounce back and watch some Clone Wars. I'll watch some other weird things. Surprisingly, I know it's not topic, but that live action Lady and the Tramp, it's pretty good. But yeah, I like it, and I gotta say, I think Disney realized what they got because there's stuff for everyone. I got my dad right now downstairs watching the Apple
Watching
Dumpling
something.
Gang.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Well, see, like you're right. It was a big success. I mean, it was so big of a success that it was kind of a victim of its own success because of so many people. Mark, I don't know if you know about this or not about the rocky start that it had.
Yeah, I heard about. Yeah, I heard some people complaining and saying that there were glitches, and I mean, for me, that was almost to be expected. I mean, anytime you have something like this big start up, you're going to have issues. You know, nothing starts out just seamlessly perfect. So,
Right.
and I mean, the fact that there was a few glitches as there were is really a testament to Disney and how big they are and how huge and how one day, you know, an eye for one welcomed our mouse overlord. So
Yeah, you're one of the I don't want to say one of the few. You're one of actually yeah I'll go ahead and say it. You're one of the few that proudly says that because not a lot of people proudly proclaim yes Disney Star Wars. You know it's but anyway like back to Disney Plus. Disney Plus like I was so excited for this because for those of you that don't know, my firstborn son was just born on Halloween, so having a son now, knowing he's going to grow up, Disney Plus is the perfect thing to have when he starts getting older. That's perfect. He can watch everything I grew up with, you know, and it's a streaming service for families, more so than just one person. But this rocky start, for those of you that don't know, I don't know who out there doesn't know at this point. This thing had a rocky start. I woke up the morning it was supposed to release. It was supposed to release, I think, 5 a.m. where I am. And I got up at 6 and went ahead and downloaded the app and subscribed for the first month and instantly got on to try to see what was on there. And it wouldn't even come up. The home screen wouldn't even come up. It was a picture of Mickey and Goofy in space. Like, that was all it was. And I was like, what in the hell? So I got to work and I tried pulling it up on my phone. Still wasn't working. I'm like, what in the hell? It took until I got home to realize that it was finally working. And I think Disney put out a tweet talking about how they weren't expecting so many people to rush it. And I think they ended up saying that they had 10 million downloads in the first 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
10 million downloads in the first 24 hours. And it's insane how many people rush to get on this thing. And one of the biggest things that everybody rushed to this streaming service for is a little indie show they made called The Mandalorian. And this show, dude, oh my God, Mark, I sent you the 2 episodes, right? We'll start with you.
Okay.
I sent you the first 2 episodes. What did you think of this show so far?
I thought,
and remember, we can talk full spoilers.
Okay.
We can talk full spoilers because like I said earlier, I'm going to put it in the description where you can skip to get past the Mandalorian stuff. So look for that if you guys don't want spoilers. Mark, go.
So first, I'll just give a broad overview of what I thought. I thought it was amazing. The tone really reminded me of original trilogy. It really, and honestly, the closest movie that I see in the new one that it reminded me as far as the look and the camera and the colors and everything like that was Rogue One. Mm-hmm. It had a very real world feel to me. And I've said this before on just the little trailers we've got on War of the Stars that it reminded me a lot of the old spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
Old Clint Eastwood, Man Without a Name, feeling that feeling, just an old western gunslinger. I love the fact, and this first spoiler, I love the fact that the Mandalorian doesn't take off his helmet. Mm-hmm. That to me was just built up this mythos of the Mandalorian and that Mandalorian culture and everything like that. The fact that he didn't take off his helmet, and it was just it was fun. Yeah, the whole thing was just had me glued to the TV or the computer screen in this case the whole time watching it, and it was just fun. It was just a fun, which is, I think that as much as I love the new trilogy, I think that is one thing that in my mind has been missing in the new trilogies is that fun aspect of it.
Mhm.
The New Hope was just a fun movie. They all were just fun, exciting movies, and this was a fun TV show that I could really get into. So that was my initial take on it. We can get into more details here in a bit, but
Mhm.
initially that was just what I thought.
No, I completely agree with you because you talked about tone a lot. The first thing, me and Kirsty sat down to watch it watch the first episode. I told her this is what the sequel trilogy, as much as I like the sequel trilogy so far, this is what the sequel trilogy should have been. This is what it should have looked like. This is what it should have felt like. And you were talking about everything was real. The practical effects, the Quaking monkey lizards roasting on a spit.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off.
Around for the holidays.
Yeah, it was great. Oh yeah, no, you
Yeah,
won't.
the mention of
Yeah.
Life Day.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
Ron, that's what I was going to talk to you about.
which a lot of people think that that's the first time it's been mentioned in the new canon. It was actually brought into canon in the From a Certain Point of View novel. It was actually first mentioned there, but to actually hear it mentioned I was like, oh, it was kind of one of those tongue-in-cheek eye-rolling moments. You're like, oh, because it has such a bad connotation to it with the holiday special, when I hear Life Day, all I think of is a Wookiee wearing a headset watching a sex hologram. You know what I mean? Like that's all I can see. But yeah, no, Danny, what did you think of it, man?
Well, first I gotta say about the whole Disney Plus thing. Somewhere Bob Iger's thinking, going, "Yes, Netflix and the rebellion will fall."
Merchandising.
See. Here's the thing. My thing with Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I've kind of fallen out of it. Force Awakens. When Disney bought it, I was kind of really. And then they canceled Clone Wars, and I'm like, stupid mouse. But Rebels came along, I'm like, eh. Force Awakens came along, I'm like, okay, they can do stuff with this. Rogue One came out, this is amazing. Last Jedi came out, I'm like, this is great. I saw it the second time, I'm going, wait a minute. Solo came out, I'm like, Solo's okay, but like I said, I gotta agree. I think Last Jedi left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. To me, it just felt like a story. It was like telling the story of three little pigs. One guy will tell this part, the next guy tells the second part, but the guy with the second part kind of strayed away.
Mm-hmm.
And now they gotta try and finish the story of Three Little Pigs, even though the second part they teamed up with the Three Bears. That's how it felt to me. And as I sat and watched Mandalorian, I kind of had a good feeling about it before I watched because there was two people involved that I really respect, and they make really great movies, and that was Jon Favreau and the guy I think that should have been in charge of day one since Disney bought, Dave Filoni. And so I loved the first episode. I'm like, this is Star Wars. To me, it felt like it had the right steps of something new, but still had the same steps that the old did. And I'm like, this is what I want. Why couldn't they do this day one?
Well, see, some of the filming techniques they use making this show too. We found out at D23 at Celebration. That ship you see, the Razor Crest, is a real model. That's not. I mean, sometimes it's CG, but a lot of the times when you see the passes by the camera, that's a model that they built. And they actually had a camera on a boom that was doing the passes by the same way they did the classic trilogy. They used a lot of the same techniques as the classic trilogy making this show, and it shows. It absolutely shows. I absolutely loved the first episode. I was hooked. Before the title card even came up for the first episode, when he's fighting the two thugs, and he grapples the one back into that iris door, and it squeezes down on him and cuts him in half.
Oh,
I'm like, oh, okay, he had a bad day, and and he walks over to the guy he's there to pick up his bounty, and the guy is just like, oh, you have my undying gratitude, and he's pulling his credits back, and he looks down, he's like, or you can have my credits, and he pushes it forward. It's got the right Star Wars humor in it too.
yeah.
And I was hooked before that title card even came up, and with this first bounty, even on the ship, even on the Razor Crest, when he says, hey, I'm going to go find the back tube, and he walks down the ladder and he's looking through the ship, that's exactly what a bounty would do. And that Mandalorian knew what the hell he was doing. He knew what he was down there doing the whole time.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the biggest thing. Okay, so the biggest detail that stands out to me in this with him are these carbonite blocks. When you see somebody frozen in carbonite, you instantly go back to Empire Strikes Back. When Han Solo was frozen, and it takes you back to that. Oh my God, this is in the same universe. This is in the same vein. This is awesome, And seeing these, and the guy has a carbon freezing chamber on his ship. Are you serious? That's high end stuff, man.
Yeah.
If you get correct, canon wise, Anakin, Ahsoka, and the clones were the first to do the carbonite stuff.
That's true. They were the first ones to actually do it.
That's
You're not
how
wrong.
Solo would survive.
Yeah.
I never actually thought of it that way, but you're right. That is how Vader knew.
Yeah. See, I know things.
I do puzzles. But no, man, this show is just absolutely great. So obviously, let's talk about the really big spoiler at the very end of the episode. This is the biggest thing everybody's losing their minds about. I'm losing my mind about it. I've got a theory. I think the theory is out there, though. I don't think I'm the first one to have it. And after the second episode, I'm convinced, balls to bone, my theory is correct.
Oh, my God.
Mark, what happened at the end of the first episode, man?
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
And it's interesting, when he first got the job, in the episode, right? And they say your target is 50 years old. You're thinking 50-year-old man, right? Which that's all you're thinking. And when he comes up on the pod and he opens it and you see the back of the head and you see the ears, I felt like I'm getting goosebumps again just thinking about it. Like I was like, no, they're not going to do this. And then when it showed the face, I'm like, are you kidding me? But if you go back and look, that doctor that wants the asset back has the same cloning patch on his shoulder as the clones did in Attack of the Clones. It's got that double eye, and he's got the same patch on his shoulder. So I'm wondering, I'm almost convinced he's a cloner, and that this actually is a clone of Yoda. How that plays into the overarching story, I don't know. But, and we'll get to episode 2 here in a second, but episode 2 cemented it in for me.
Yeah.
Danny, what did you think of Baby Yoda?
Okay, I'm not gonna sound like Kiss half anything, but before they showed Yoda and he said, I thought they said it was 50 some years, I instantly knew, because what's the oldest thing in the freaking Star Wars? It's Yoda. I'm like, it's one of his species.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Yoda because I'm a fan of puppets, stuff like that. I like that, but then instantly I thought, great, now I'm going to see this little thing all over my phone on social media. They just unknowingly made Porg 2.0.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard more Gremlin references.
Yeah, I thought Gizmo too.
Yeah, he thought like a hairless Gizmo.
Hairless Gizmo.
He's cool. I don't mind it, but I see a thing that reason why I don't care for episode 2 as much as episode 1.
Fair enough.
See,
my thing is with it, I kind of wanted to show see what I like about and this is my problem I have with the Disney. Everything seems to be, to me, for movies and stuff like that, with the exception of Rogue One and Solo, is Jedi in the center of the ring. Something to do with the Force. Someone's discovering powers. And that's why I think Clone Wars kind of work. You get 3 episodes of a Jedi themed, a villain themed, a bounty hunter themed, a background character themed. I'm kind of getting a little tired of a Jedi in the forefront, or somebody's discovering superpower. It's getting a little old to me as a casual viewer. And that's why I kind of hope this whole season isn't going to revolve around Baby Yoda.
Well, even if it does, it's not like he's going to be wielding a lightsaber and jumping all over the place.
Yeah, we hope not.
Oh God, don't do it. Because, yeah, you're right. We hope not. Because I don't want to see Baby Yoda. But
well, and let me just, because I don't either, because honestly, if I was to rank my least favorite lightsaber battles, the battle between Yoda and Dooku in episode 2 is my least favorite, because to me that was just all it was is the people of ILM going, "Look what we can do! Look what we can do!" Yeah,
Episode 2 is my least favorite.
Well, see, and that battle too, I feel like that lightsaber battle, just to get off topic here for a second, I don't think that lightsaber battle should have ever happened.
No.
Because by the time you get to episode 3 and Yoda pulls his lightsaber out against the Emperor, we've seen it. It wasn't. It lost it. Had you not seen Yoda fight Dooku in episode 2, and you'd never seen Yoda with a lightsaber, and then he walks into Chancellor Palpatine's office or Emperor Palpatine's office, and he's like, you'd be like, like this shit's going down. Like,
I don't think there should have been ever a lightsaber fight with Yoda. These guys are powerful, and the Force it should have just been all out force.
Force powers.
Now, I think if it was, Yoda taking on someone, we'll say Grievous, someone who don't have Force, I think Yoda would use his lightsaber then, because he'd be like, I'm not going to showboat my powers around on this. I want to give this being another chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but
With Sidious, that's equally matched to Yoda, I think it'd be a powers of the Force all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's get into episode 2 of The Mandalorian. So, episode 2 picks up, and we've still got Baby Yoda. He's still trying to take Baby Yoda back to collect his bounty. And some little disgusting creatures pop up and decide to strip the Razor Crest.
Jawas.
And
yes,
I was laughing my ass off this entire sequence with him chasing down the Sandcrawler, fighting the Jawas. I laughed so hard.
I love how they just explode.
Yeah. Oh, just disintegrate. He's like, I disintegrated a few of them. But later on in the episode, I was laughing so hard. And you see the one in the scope shooting this way, shooting that way. He has no idea where it's coming from. And then just a cloud of dust. But then when he's fighting, like when he's trying to climb the side of the Sandcrawler, and he gets to the top, and then they're all like, there's like a dozen of them with those little like ray guns, and they hit him, and he just stands there for a second and falls off. I laughed so damn hard. Hard.
You want to know what that sequence? To me, that's the best part of that episode. I will say episode 2 isn't my favorite. It lost me on some things, but I will say that whole, I can't think of it, Sandcrawler sequence. I thought whoever came up with that was amazing. And certain shots reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when they're fighting the tank.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Especially when they're driving knock him off against the side.
Oh, and every Jawa he grabbed and pulled off, and you see him fall. Boom. It kept on going. I was laughing way too hard at this.
I love when he's actually in the Sandcrawler, and he's hunched down like that. He's like, he doesn't look like.
And they hit the bump, and he's like, "King!" and he bounces his head off the. Yeah.
Now, bro, because speaking of that episode, that sequence, later that night after watching it, maybe you've heard this story or whatever, but I watched that Mr. Sunday's movies where they do a caravan, and they did a really bad Han Solo comic. And basically, Han Solo has a whole fight sequence with a Sandcrawler. Boba Fett is inside the Sandcrawler. He just escaped. And basically, Han leaves Boba in the Sandcrawler, and the Sandcrawler crashes back into the Sarlacc pit.
Oh my gosh. I'm
like, there's no way that these two... Someone had to get this idea from something.
None of that is canon, Danny.
Yeah. I want it to be canon.
I know, but none of it is.
Like, I'm free of the...
But see, what I'm getting at is the humor, like Star Wars humor. So, one of the problems I think we've had with some of the newer movies, and even with the prequels, is humor in Star Wars. I don't think it's been nailed right. The classic trilogy had just the right touch of humor. Like when Leia calls Han the scruffy-looking nerf herder, and Chewie's like, laughing, and Han turns around, laugh it up, fuzzball. Like, that's actually funny.
Yeah.
That's funny, and it's dry Star Wars humor. That kind of humor works in Star Wars. Not poop jokes, thanks Jar Jar. Not poop jokes, not fart jokes.
Not
the kind of, yeah, but the humor...
You know what works? Dad jokes.
Dad jokes. Yes.
Vader dad jokes.
Yes, don't choke on your aspirations. Totally works. But that, that's another thing. That's not the first, pun or joke Vader ever made.
No. Didn't I remember? Apologies accepted, Captain Nita.
He's sarcastic as shit.
And one of my new co-hosts has mentioned this again about Vader. He's a drama queen.
He really is. He's sassy.
Okay, listen to this. he purposely turned off his chest plate in Rogue One, the thing that helps him breathe, so he could have a more dramatic entrance into the. He's also the same guy that in Rebels, while using the Force to fly a TIE fighter, while standing on top of it in a windless cave, made his cape dramatically flow in the wind before. Yeah. Vader's a drama queen.
He showboats. Yeah, I mean, well, look at Anakin. That's where he gets all of it. But so
I'll try spinning.
Yeah. Oh God,
Vader's ever done
a
spinning?
good trick. I don't know. Vader's pulled off some cool stuff in the books, though.
Yeah.
But in the second episode of The Mandalorian, we see this baby Yoda, literally, not figuratively, not metaphorically, literally use the Force to hover a giant Star Wars rhino.
Can I just say, I'm glad that The Mandalorian Episode 2 got to give us the ending to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We got to see a rhino fight.
But he used the Force, and he tried using the Force also at the beginning of the episode when he was trying to heal himself with that little shocker or whatever it was. He kept reaching over trying to grab it, and I'm like, what is this kid doing? And then when he reaches out and uses the Force to actually lift that thing, it sold me.
Yeah.
It's a clone of Yoda. It sold me on it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what the point of it is. If you do the math, they said it was 50 years old. That puts it 10 years prior to Phantom Menace. And that's about the same time Anakin was born.
Mm.
I don't know if the two are related, but it's kind of interesting to kind of put those two together. But he was created 10 years pre-Phantom Menace.
What if
Anakin what was the point of him?
Chosen one? What if that Yoda is really the chosen one?
I saw a theory going around also saying that maybe that Yoda was created as kind of the counterbalance to the darkness that Anakin was going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know why he would have been created when we still have the original Yoda that could have been the counterbalance to it. But unless there's something about this baby Yoda we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this. I'm actually really curious because I mean there's so much that they could do with something like this, and there's a huge backstory there, obviously.
I think what works with Star Wars, not to interrupt, but I mean interrupt.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I think what works on a lot of Star Wars stuff is that mystery for some characters and having to wait for, like, original fans. They had to wait to see what was under Vader's mask.
Mm-hmm.
We had I'm a General Grievous fan. I had to wait years and so until they got the Clone Wars that kind of dived a little bit. Some of the novels, a lot of people go, "Where's Snoke? Who's Snoke?" I'm like, give it time. Maybe they may. I will admit it would be nice to have something on Snoke because I'm kind of wondering, where did he come from?
I have a theory.
I think it's just because the way I look at it, that my theory on Snoke is, there are other believers they've showed us of the Force, Jedi. There's the will. There's I think he's just a different user, a different religion or something.
I don't think he's anybody. I literally don't think he's anybody. I think he's absolutely no one. And you know what? We could talk about this for a few minutes. I mean, did you guys kind of get your thoughts out about The Mandalorian?
Well, there are a couple things that I wanted to kind of go.
Yeah, go for it.
Get your guys' thoughts on. One is the episode times. I was expecting hour-long shows. So when I came up and the first one says 39 minutes, 30 minutes, half hour, I'm like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. These are just 30-minute episodes. The other is they never tell what planet they're on.
Yeah, they don't, do they?
They never say when they go from one planet to the other. They never say what planet they're going to.
I never noticed that. You're right.
Yeah, and usually they always mention even if they don't show on the crawl, this is Bespin. They say we're going to the Bespin system. Right. We're on Tatooine.
Well, like in Rogue One, anytime. The way they did that in Rogue One, the way they named the planets was if you're watching the movies chronologically and you hadn't seen that planet yet, it labeled it, but only if you're watching it chronologically, because they labeled Yavin 4, but they didn't label Mustafar. So it was only if you were watching the movies 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, 4 that they labeled the planets if you'd never seen them anymore, like the Ring of Kafrene. Like they were showing, they should have do that in Mandalorian. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
I have a theory on that, on the names. I think Lucasfilm sat and watched Civil War and saw the big, bold city titles and were like, we need that. MCU successful, we need their success. We need big, bold letters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about
It both came out the same year.
yeah? What about the episode links? I mean, do you like the fact that they're shorter episodes, or do you wish that we'd get longer?
Oh, I would always wish for an hour-long episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Obviously, but I think, look, you have to look at it from Disney's point of view.
Mhm.
This is a big budget TV show that the only returns they're getting from it are on Disney Plus.
Mm.
So you have to kind of look at the budget they have versus how much they're going to make on Disney Plus, which we know now is an absorbent amount of money. But episodes for something as big budget like that, I mean, I'm not really surprised they're not longer than that. And honestly,
Yeah.
do they need to be longer?
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't
Because
mind
it
it.
seems like they're not episodes 1 and 2, they're chapters 1 and 2.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus, they're called chapters 1 and 2. So it's just chapter 1 of a larger story. Don't make a movie 2.5 hours just to make a movie that's 2.5 hours and then figure out what you're going to put in it to fill that 2.5 hour gap.
Mhm.
You make your movie, and however long it is, that's how long it is. If
You know
it
what I think
tells
would be
this-
really, really cool if they did this, if they when this first season's over, and if they decide to release it on DVD, if they label it Book 1 of The Mandalorian,
Oh, that'd be cool.
and then you have Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3.
Seasons are books, and then you have the chapters.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
The other thing, of course,
Yeah.
is IG-88.
That was IG-11.
That was,
IG-11.
Yeah.
that was
That
cool.
was just
That guy, dude, and Danny sent me a picture, and I was thinking about it before he sent it to me, but I'm so glad he sent it. It was a picture of him, of IG-11, and it said, anytime there's a minor inconvenience, shall I initiate self-destruct
Self-destruct.
protocols? This is great.
I don't mean to interrupt the IG-88, IG-11 talk, but like you said, going back to what you said about the short, to me, chapter 2, get that right, I feel like that could have been condensed and maybe combined with whatever was on chapter 1 or whatever they got planned for. Because the way I look at it was, he's bringing the child back. Oh, some Jawas took his stuff. He's got to get it back. He's got to fight a rhino. I think they could have convinced that is, okay, he's taking the kid back. Those gangs attack him. He's losing from those whatever people were attacking him. Have Yoda save him there. And then he could have left the planet and get to see. That's the thing I had with episode 2. I'm like, I feel like episode 2 has some things that I don't know if they're going to have any effect in the future.
Well, I try not to if I know how many episodes is this season going to be? Is it like 8 episodes? I think.
I'm not sure.
I'm not one to try to judge something based off of just the second episode of something. I think that's why a lot of people have problems with Last Jedi, is because it's the very middle of a trilogy and they don't know what's going to happen in the next one. And I think this is one of those things where I'm judging each episode individually, and then once the season comes out, then I can go, oh, that's why they did this and this and this and this. That makes sense. So we don't know what the overall plot is yet. We don't know what the whole plan is yet. I trust Dave Filoni. I trust Jon Favreau. Give it to me. Just give me what you got. Let's see what it is, and then I'll judge it based off its own merit.
Yeah.
But I'm real excited about this season, man. I can't wait. I did hear rumors also that they're going to re-edit each season into a film, like an actual movie, and they could do it. But think about this also. What says we couldn't get a novelization of these seasons? Because it would be the only live action thing we don't have novelizations of.
That would be cool. So here's another question for you guys, as far as. And this leads into another. The only, I just could say, issue I possibly could have with the new movie coming out has to do with fan service.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to see? Now since we're talking about the Mandalorian, do you want to see other quote unquote famous Mandalorians? Do you want to see Satine? Do you want to see Sabine?
In the show?
In the show, or or mentioned.
See, I'm not sure on the fan. See, I'm a big Marvel fan. and I don't mind this little fan service thing. I think that's the thing that Star Wars has had a little is subverting expectations.
See, and that was my thing. That was my thing, and I've heard a few people mention this in the last trailer for Rise of Skywalker. Is it seemed like in Last Jedi, they went so far out of their way to not give the fans what they were expecting. To go, absolutely no fan service, and it seems like at least with this new trailer, is like the pendulum almost swung the other way. With here's all the fan service. Look at all these ships. Look, here's a Clone Wars ship. Look at this. Here's a Trade Federation battleship.
How many ships do you want in the shot, JJ? Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the background he did a little itty bitty Easter egg. If you notice it, way in the back is the Enterprise.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me. If you go back and look at the first of the reboot Star Trek movies, R2-D2's in that movie.
Yeah.
He's in the debris around Vulcan. Yeah.
Back to the subverting expectations. I don't know where they're going to go with the character, but the first episode, it subverted my expectation with IG-11 because they were showing, pop figures, action figures, posters, and then they kill him at the end of it. So I wasn't expecting that, but I thought, well, maybe he's going to take him, fix him up.
Captain Phasma 2.0.
He did kick some butt there for a while.
Yeah,
but
he did. I thought he was just interesting enough too, where you're like, this guy's cool. Okay, I can watch this guy fight all. Oh, never mind.
Never mind.
I thought I had a weird theory. I thought maybe before I watched chapter 2, I thought maybe he's going to take him, fix him, and then he's going to get that weird Taika Waititi humor, kind of like Korg or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's one of those, he's saying something stupid, and the Mandalorian is just like, shut up.
No, don't self-destruct. But no, you were asking about Sabine and some other Mandalorians and whatnot. Well, they're not on Mandalore. But the thing is, Sabine is part of a high... what's the word I'm looking for? A very notable family.
A notable clan.
Of the Mandalorians. So it almost would seem unnatural if they didn't. And I'm almost positive they're going to, because it's Dave Filoni. And he's going to reference his own material. Yeah. He's going to reference these characters that he's made. He's going to. I mean, even the little nod of when the Mandalorian is having the flashbacks to when he was a kid. Clone Wars. That was during Clone Wars. That was Clone Wars on Mandalore. And that's see, and that's a little reference to what he's done.
We don't know when that happened in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? How do they think? And speaking of bringing back characters, how do you think with Jon Favreau being involved, would they do of showing pre-Vizsla? Because he voiced Vizsla.
See, they could.
But how? Because I'm not saying John's good, but he's not really the appearance of pre-Vizsla.
Well, Jon Favreau also voiced Rio in Solo.
Yeah, so that's my thing. If they did pre-Vizsla, do you think they just do a guy in Mandalorian armor, you don't see his face, and John's voice is just coming from it?
It wouldn't have to be Jon Favreau's voice, I think, because, I mean, even look at Saw Gerrera. Granted, he was a little bit of an age difference. A different guy voiced Saw Gerrera in Clone Wars. It wasn't Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, but he was younger, though.
But even in Rebels, when it showed the older Saw Gerrera, that was Forrest Whitaker, now that I think about it. I just blew my own point out of the water, but they could. I don't see why they couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't they? Just because Jon Favreau's behind the camera doesn't mean he couldn't voice him.
He was Iron Man, and he was happy.
Hell, I mean, what was the name of the director for Thor Ragnarok? I can't remember his name. He voiced Korg in his own movie. So, I mean, why couldn't Favreau voice Pre-Vizsla?
He's IG-11, right, Taika?
Yeah. Yeah, because you could kind of hear that Korg in there just a little bit on a couple lines, and I'm like, you could kind of hear him.
The revolution has started.
Could you imagine if the Mandalorian walked into there and found IG-11 and Baby Yoda going, "Hey man, got some pizza over here, Wi-Fi's over there."
Hey man, I'm IG-11. This is Yoda.
This is Yoda. I like the fact of the mention, like when you first see the stormtroopers. And it reminds you, like yes, this is immediately after Return of the Jedi, but the Empire's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like It wasn't like the rebels won the Battle of Endor and the all the Empire just pulled one giant Jar Jar went, we say give up.
My give up. My give up. Yeah, no, it's
they're still out
they're
there,
still
but
fighting.
yet there's still this idea that the Empire's there on their last leg, because when the guy gives them the Imperial credits, he's like, perhaps you haven't heard, the Empire's
the Empire is not around anymore.
Not anymore.
Speaking
They said this show is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure that's after the Battle of Jakku. I'm pretty sure it's after the Battle of Jakku, which was the literal death of the Empire. Like that was the Empire in its death throes.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely. I mean, it could still be 5 years. It could be leading up to the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly.
Well, and you know the canon better than I do. With the treaty, the Empire was still around, but it was just forced to be in this one little area.
Right.
So
it was given a little bit of territory.
And like, you stay there and don't,
Mm-hmm. Don't bother us. Just
don't be naughty.
Stay in the corner. Just go over
of
there.
Empire. One thing I see people talking about, what your guys' thoughts on him, is Werner Herzog's character, the client.
Interesting. He's very, and I'm pretty sure he's Imperial, or at least ex-Imperial, former Imperial, or still whatever. I mean, whatever the Empire is at this point, I still think he's part of it.
Part of the Remnant.
Yeah. Because if you look at that medallion he's wearing, it's the Imperial logo. So
yeah.
See, I think what's fun about the character, especially some of the older characters, they've been around. And what I'm interested in Clone Wars 2 is when Rise of Skywalker comes out, to see in that season 7 of what Mandalorian or what Rise of Skywalker stuff will we see in that Clone Wars. Maybe Werner Herzog may be younger and appear in there.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're introducing all these new characters that could still pop up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really could. Even the Mandalorian. Hell, you could even see the Mandalorian as a kid. As a foundling, like they were talking about in season 7 of Clone Wars. Who knows?
Yeah. And I love how they're expanding more. Like, one of my favorite episodes of of Rebels was when they went to Mandalore, and with Sabine, and reconnecting with that, and finding out the heritage about the armor and how it's handed down from generation, but it's always augmented to fit that the person. So even though and then seeing, like, when he got the little singlet, the little piece of silver, and then melting it down and adding it to the armor, I'm like,
he got a pauldron.
That was a cool touch. That was a cool.
Oh, that female Mandalorian's a badass, and you and I both know it.
Oh yeah.
Do you think, speaking of Mandalore and its past, do you think any conversation about Maul will appear? You think Darth Maul mentioned it
I'm
anyway?
sure he led Death Watch for a while, so I could probably see a mention somewhere. I don't think it's gonna be big reference. I mean, Maul ended up being a nobody. He was always the character that wanted to be something, but was never able to attain it.
Because I wondered, if we got more Mandalorians appearing, do you think we'll see some that will still be sporting the Maul spikes on their helmet?
That would be cool. Some of the Death Watch helmets, that would be cool.
Yeah.
He was the bastard child of the universe. Like, the universe is just shitting on him all the time. The Force is like, no, screw you. Like, no, screw you again.
Do you think they'll mention anything of the Mandalorian past, where their time where they were they tried to make Mandalore pacifist?
They may.
Where they look at, like, and how will they look at that? How would they would look at that with shame, and like, why did they try to change who we were?
I don't know, because that was, how far back was that for Mandalorian? Was it like 6 years? 7 years?
It was right in the middle of the Clone Wars.
Oh God, it was. Oh, you're right. Yeah, that was further. I was thinking it was in Rebels, but you're right. It was Clone Wars.
No, it was right in the middle of Clone Wars.
So you're looking at 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That brings up, because I know with the Mandalorian, it's like he's not trying. Almost. It's like they throw it in his face. Like the Ugnaught guy. Forget his name. Tells him,
I can never remember his name.
You people used to ride this lizard that mythos or whatever. And I got thinking, like, what if he was in that passive time? Because I got thinking it, and he was happy with it, and now he's thrown back and having to do that war thing, and maybe he's not comfortable with it. Maybe he was a few that like that.
Well, he would have been very, very young. I mean, looking at him right now, I'm guessing he's probably close to in between Han and Luke's age. Mm-hmm. So he would have remembered the Clone Wars, but he would have been a kid during the Clone Wars. So
right.
he would have been very, very like.
So he could be in his late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly.
But think of how I can't think of the word now.
Impressionable.
Yeah, he could have been a young kid, maybe barely remember peaceful time, and then these horn guys showed up with his thugs, took over his thing, and now everyone's wearing these suits of armor, and life has changed.
Well, and I liked how they showed the almost, you hear the term, there's no honor among thieves, but it seemed like there was some honor between, like, when him and IG-11, where they showed that they're both guild members. It's like, okay, there's a code of conduct here. There's something that, as long as you don't cross this line, I won't cross, you're good with me. So it was,
Well, they even agreed to split the bounty.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And isn't there? Don't they have like a somewhere a code of like the bounty hunter code of ethics and the code of like what each you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't encroach on another one's bounty, once every stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that got thrown out the window quite a bit. I mean, even with the Trandoshans attacking him in the cavern.
Yeah,
that got thrown out the window quick.
Well,
we don't know that they were guild members, but
and that's one thing I'm interested in seeing is like everyone having the little fob, and everyone where he's like, oh yeah, what's going on with this? Why do you have? And the fact that IG-11 was given different orders, than the Mandalorian.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's something else I was going to talk about, and I'd forgotten about it till just now. The fobs, like what? How do these things work? How do they? I mean,
it's new technology.
I don't know because doesn't that kind of take away the whole aspect of bounty hunting? How are you the best bounty hunter in the parsec if all you do is follow a beeper?
I have one question.
You're literally playing a game of hot cold. Like that's
sounds
literally
like a
what you're doing.
midichlorians conversation.
Yeah, right. That's the only thing that I can't figure out is what's the point of bounty hunting? Because we've never seen that before. Even when Boba was hunting down Han Solo, he never had a bounty fob.
Yeah, here's my thing with the tracker. Does that mean that it's like since there's so many people? Does that mean is Werner Herzog going? Okay, my 515's here. Oh, bounty hunters, different possession. Go get it. Next guy, please. Oh, bounty hunting. Something. Next guy.
Yeah. How do these things work? How do they point you in the direction of where you're going? It's just an interesting thing. I don't mean to tear the show apart. I'm not trying to point out things that don't make sense because I love the show and I don't want to pick it apart. But it's just one thing that I was like, how do these work? Like, what's the point of them? It kind of takes away from the bounty hunting aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because then anybody, the kid down the street could be like, oh, I found a tracking fob. Let's go see where it leads to and just go until it beep, 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 beep. Oh, hey, I just made 50,000 credits. like any kid can do it. So I don't know.
What'd you get? I got a baby Yoda. I got money. What'd you get? I got a rhino.
I got a bail jumper. What'd you get? Another bail jumper. But all right, so that's kind of that's kind of our thoughts on the Mandalorian. So far, so good.
Yeah,
I have a controversial question for you guys.
What's that?
We have seen Boba Fett in action. We have seen Cad Bane in action. We've seen the Mandalorian somewhat. Out of what we know, who would you say is probably the best bounty hunter we have been introduced to?
Cad Bane.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Boba, like you were talking earlier about the mystery of Star Wars. You were talking about how mystery is a big part of everything. They took that mystery away from Boba Fett with the prequels. They took that away from him. He was always the badass Mandalorian. You didn't know what he looked like. And then all of a sudden you find out, oh, he's just a clone of his dad. Yeah, so we know what he looks like. But you know what he looks like, though. He's a clone trooper. And it's just... I just
Now,
took away
Brett,
from him.
just on the Boba thing, have you seen the unfinished animation of what could have been in the Clone Wars?
Of him fighting Bane, of him fighting Darth Bane, or not Darth
Now,
Bane, Cad Bane.
Cad Bane.
now here's my
Yeah.
question: if they never do that episode, if they don't do it for season 7, and say they do finish, we'll do it. And or question here: if they don't do that episode, in my thoughts, Cad Bane hasn't been killed off. To me, that doesn't seem canon.
Yeah, no.
Would you want to see Cad Bane show up in a Mandalorian? Or if they do that episode and they finish it and put it, do you think that would change everyone's reputation of Boba? Because I think that's a fitting thing for Boba. Of how
I've been hoping. Look, we've had this Star Wars comic going, right, for the last 4 years now, almost 5 years, and it's been taking place between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And there's one story that I keep talking about on this podcast that I want to pop up in that comic, and I don't think it's going to pop up. I don't think it's actually going to happen, and it's going to piss me off because it's not going to make sense. The one story I want is in Empire Strikes Back. You guys remember when Han and Leia are walking through the corridor, and Han says, well, the bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Mantell changed my mind. I want that story, and I want that bounty hunter to be Cad Bane. I want that to be the bounty hunter that made Han go, oh, well, shit, time to go face Jabba. like I want that to be him. And so far it hasn't happened. That's the recognition I want Cad Bane to get. I want him to have. I want that to be his on-screen mention, and I want him to be able to weave into that story like that, into the classic trilogy story like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this idea of, with Boba Fett, of being the most, not necessarily useless character, but one of the most overhyped characters in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Overrated, and I say the same thing. I always say the same thing. He had a total of like 5 lines, one of which was a Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, like you said with that episode of the Clone Wars, if they do that, that's a good way to really redeem that character in the eyes of a lot, and show okay, this is why he was considered to be such, a cool character. Why people loved him is by having him face down someone like Cad Bane, and maybe not kill Cad Bane, but put him in his place. So that people look at looking forward, that it's Boba is the bounty hunter everybody respects instead of fears instead of Cad Bane.
See, that's the thing. I think, not me to interrupt, but they always said Boba Fett's the greatest bounty hunter. Maybe because he became the greatest because he took out the greatest.
Maybe because he wasn't using a tracking fob.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if there was, look, this tracking fob thing kind of does piss me off the more I think about it. Because if these tracking fobs exist, what's the point of Darth Vader hiring 7 or 8 bounty hunters to find Han Solo? Oh, just hire one of them. Here's the tracking fob. No disintegration. See you in 5 days. Like that's all it would be. You wouldn't have to waste the money on all of them, or the time. So it's just that. I mean, I get it's a plot device. I get it. It's one of those things that they made for the show. I'm not going to dispute it. It's just I feel like it's out of place. But anyway, so all right, so let's get on to some mailbag questions. Let's get away from Mandalorian for a little while, which I think we're going to talk about Mandalorian again here in just a minute. But before we get into the mailbag questions, how do you guys get a question on the Star Wars Canon podcast? You can email it to me at starwarscanonlibrary@gmail.com, or if you're listening on the Anchor app or Anchor.fm, you can send me a voice message there with your question. And you never know, you might be able to hear yourself on next week's episode with your question. So we've got 3 questions picked out for this week, and all 3 questions are really good questions. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on this, Mark and Danny. So let's just jump right into this. Question number 1 this week comes from Lauren Stone, and Lauren says, "Greetings, Brian. Hope all is well. Now that The Mandalorian is out and it's received such an overwhelmingly positive response, do you think the future of Star Wars should be rooted in television? Would love to hear your thoughts. Love the podcast." Mark, what do you think? Do you think maybe Lucasfilm needs to focus more on television at this point? Because keep in mind, we've got the Obi-Wan series coming, we've got the Cassian Andor series coming, and we've got this Mandalorian series that is just apparently off the chain.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think for me personally, we talked about this a while on the last episode of War of the Stars, this very same topic, and for me, how do I put this? It was one of those things that what happened on the TV could either sink or swim with this, and it swum. It swum like an Olympic swimmer. So to me, I mean, this is, I think, in a long way around. I think that TV should be their focus now. I think that with the success of The Mandalorian, and it looks like it's just going to continue to be a success, that's where they really, not that they should stop making movies, but I think that they need to really focus on the television aspect, on the streaming aspect of it. So,
well, see, Danny, you're a big Marvel fan. And this is the same thing that they're doing with the MCU right now. They're focusing more on the streaming aspect of it, and they're doing a few films still, but they're coming out with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, what other TV shows are there? The What If,
Loki.
Loki's getting his own show. I mean, all these other shows, they're at WandaVision. They're focusing on all these other shows now. Do you think this is something they should also do with Star Wars?
I'm going to say that before I go in about the Star Wars TV show, I think people forget about it. And I'm not saying because I'm a fan of it. People got to remember about these shows. Clone Wars walked so that these other shows could run. Because if Clone Wars would have failed, none of this would have. Because George Lucas probably would have went, "Hey, this isn't going to work." But I think it depends on what the story they want to tell. Like, for example, like Clone Wars said, they could do, like, the movies was about Anakin Skywalker. Clone Wars could do stuff about smaller characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie, I don't think they could have done Darth Maul's story in a movie. You know, what happened? I think, TV gives them time to sit and grow and get to learn the character.
Yeah.
For example, like, Ahsoka. No one really cared for her.
Oh, I hated Ahsoka at the beginning.
But now you see Ahsoka, you're just sitting there going,
to the point where I named my cat Ahsoka. So, I hated this. You bring up a good point. You can grow with these characters a lot more, and you have more exposure to these characters with a series like this than you do with film. I mean, because look at Rey and Finn and Poe. The only exposure that the main audience has had so far is 2 movies. That's it. We've had 4 hours with them. That's it. And with The Mandalorian, you have 5 seasons of Mandalorian. You're looking at 20 plus hours with a character.
Yeah.
Well, now here's my only concern, and I wouldn't say concern is, like you said, with TV shows, you can take a character that, like you said with Ahsoka, that at the beginning you may hate, but by the end of it, you're like, I love this character. I can't wait to, with the way, and I'm going to use the post-millennial whatever, and the way they the lack of attention span, that they could just, they see a character like Ahsoka that everyone hates at the beginning, and instead of waiting until the end to see how that character grows, they're like, I don't like this character. Click.
They want the instant gratification.
They want the instant cool character, instant everything like that, instead of saying, like, character development. Yeah. This character is bad for a reason. They need to grow. They need to grow into that, aspect of. And I don't know if that was the plan with Ahsoka in the beginning. Yeah. If the plan was to make her annoying and eye rolling at the beginning, and at the end you're like, oh yeah, we actually all like her now. But yeah, with the instant gratification, like you said, everyone wants, they want what they want now, instead of waiting until you get the story fully told.
Well, see, also, one of the reviews I saw, one of the only negative reviews I saw for Mandalorian, was this guy said that the second episode had no character development for the Mandalorian. And I mean, there wasn't a lot there, obviously. I mean, it was more of him trying to track down his parts. You didn't learn a lot about him like you did in the first episode. But is that needed if you're only on episode 2 of 8 or 9 or 10 episodes? Why does every episode have to learn something new?
That was, and that person was said that was right. There wasn't a lot of character development, but there was story progression.
Right.
There was a lot of story progression, not necessarily a lot of detailed things, but it was like they're moving the plot from point A to point B so we can get to point
Right.
C and then move on with more character development for the character.
Yeah. Well,
I see one con with the TV series, and it's been shown before. I'm going to use him as an example, and people are going to say, "Oh, you don't shut up." He's my favorite character, so quiet, people. But there's another character that did it. They did the original micro series Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
And they made General Grievous look like the freaking Terminator in that. And people want to see Revenge of the Sith. You know, people who haven't seen that show, whatever, they just thought it's just some robot that's coughing and hacking up. He can do forearm, whatever. They didn't
Right.
know who that person was. And so some people go, that was just a throwaway character. To me, I didn't know who he was, but I liked the character. And, you know, you got to see the Clone War. You got the add-on to him. Another character that was like that is Saw Gerrera. People saw Rogue One who had never seen Clone War Nep, so some people went, I don't know who this is. So with them doing TV shows, they may introduce characters and go, oh, let's put them in this movie. You may sit there and go, who is that? Because I've seen some people say, you know, it'd be cool if we see Hondo appear in Rise of Skywalker. I'm going like, but are people going to know who Hondo is?
Right.
I don't know who he is because Hondo's boss.
Yeah.
Well, see, what you're talking about, some of those Easter eggs, like a great example is the Ghost and Chopper in Rogue One.
Yeah.
You, me, Mark, like us who watch Rebels, we're like, holy shit, that's the Ghost. Holy shit, that's Chopper. But anybody else, it was just a thing where it was like they didn't know any different. It was
even
just
the
a background thing.
Even the name drop of General Syndulla.
Right. Yeah.
We were like, oh.
To the regular movie-going audience, that's just background noise. That's just extra detail that they don't really notice. But for us sweaties, we're like, kind of like the Ghost. Kind of like the Ghost in the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. How you see the Ghost in that trailer, you're like, all of us are like, oh my god, like, and that's the Ghost, but everybody else, it's just another one of the 50 million ships.
This is something that we we actually talked about this a little bit on last week's episode. Our episode was on the toxic fan base, and we talked about how we as older fans who grew up with the original trilogy and the prequels. When they showed the original teaser trailer for the new movie, Rise of Skywalker, I guess there was a lot of people, the younger fans at Celebration, who had just grown up or had just started becoming fans with this with the new sequel trilogy, and there's some who, believe it or not, haven't seen the original trilogy that have just seen. So when they see Lando show up, and all us old fans were like, it's Lando, and a lot of these kids were like, well, who's Lando? And it seemed like there were two types of fans there. There were those that were rolling their eyes like, oh, how can you call yourself a fan and not know who Lando is?
Right.
But then there were fans that were, this is where I said that we as older fans, what we need to do as far as being almost like Jedi Master to these young Padawans, saying, okay, here, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
Let me tell you who the coolest guy in the galaxy is. Who Lando Calrissian is. You know.
See, that's the thing. I brought that up earlier, Brian, but when I tried to show my cousin the movies, I will say this: when I talked about it blended new with old stuff, I will say that I like the original trilogy movies, but I will say they're not my favorite because they do kind of show age to them. You know, their effects, they're good, but if you watch them now on like 4K TV, they don't hold up as good. And they can sometimes drag a little long. So I could get why, you know, showing someone new that's never seen these and you want to start them with... I start with the original trilogy because I want them to have that feeling of, oh my god, Darth Vader is...
To kind of grow with the story, yeah.
And her thing was...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, her thing was... It's hard to fault because their age shows. It's kind of hard to... she said she was pointing out all the flaws, and that's what was ruining it for her.
Yeah. Well, as someone who's done acting and has been small theater stuff like that, you watch the original movie, like the original New Hope, and Mark Hamill is just cringeworthy in acting. The acting there.
Yeah.
Oh, it is just. But now you look at him now, and he's like a tour de force. But yeah,
but Uncle Owen,
watching from an actor's point of view to watch Mark Hamill in the original. Oh, And well, of course, now we see where both Anakin and
Kylo.
Kylo get it
Ben,
from. They're
yeah.
both whiny little brats.
God, man. It's yeah, no, it's sad, man. But
But I was gonna pick up power converters.
you were talking about fan service earlier, and I think that's, if they start doing this television thing with Star Wars, I absolutely think this is the direction they're going with it. I mean, especially considering, with Benioff and Weiss leaving their trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and Rian Johnson supposedly leaving his. I haven't seen anything confirmed on that yet, but the rumor is that they've canceled all that. Right now, the only movie that they're really talking about is the Kevin Feige film, and that with them, getting rid of all these film slate dates, it makes you wonder: are they really getting ready? Because you can tell a lot more stories a lot faster with a series with a set of series than you can films. How long does it take to get a movie out? 2, maybe 3 years, 2 years max, or 2 years at the
Longer
minimum.
if it's good.
Yeah, with a series, you can come out with a new season every year. And a season, if you have 8 episodes that are a half hour each, that's 4 hours. That's 2 films worth coming out every year rather than a film every 2.
Yeah.
And you could tell these stories a lot faster, and you could get them out a lot faster. And obviously, with this Mandalorian thing, I'm excited to see what the Cassian Andor series is going to look like. I'm really excited about the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
These things are going to skyrocket, and I think with the amount of positive reception they're getting about it, I think you're going to see a lot more series announced. I think you're going to see a lot more Disney Plus series.
Do you think too many shows could clog it up, though? What I'm saying is, I like
It depends.
prequel stuff, because how can you do some prequel telling stuff without the Clone Wars stuff getting in the way?
Well, you could do it. You could easily do it. I mean, they're telling the Mandalorian story right now, and you've got the Aftermath trilogy happening. You've got Alphabet Squadron happening. You've got the Battlefront 2 campaign happening right now. You've got Last Shot happening, all in the same time period as the Mandalorian.
But as a casual viewer, though, who don't read the books and stuff, that just watch the stuff, some of us may be going, well, how is this person showing up when this is going on? But I thought,
wouldn't that be awesome? Like, wouldn't that be kind of a neat thing, though? Like, if let's say, for instance, right, they do a live action series that takes place during Clone Wars. Or here's a good idea. Here's a good example. The Cassian Andor series. We know this is coming. It happens the same time as Rebels. Why couldn't Harrison Dula pop in for an episode of Cassian Andor? Why couldn't Chopper be there? Why couldn't we see the Rebels crew? Because there was a lot of time there in between seasons 2 and 3 of Rebels where you don't know what they were doing. There was 6 months there where Ezra became Billy Badass with a lightsaber. And Kanan was blinded. We have no idea what was going on. Why couldn't we see some stuff that popped up in between there?
Wouldn't at some point that be considered too much fan service at sometimes?
I think fan service has a bad connotation with it.
Yeah, I think the only thing I don't want to see is like I don't mind seeing these characters, but like I don't want to see in Last Jedi, not Last Jedi, but in Rise of Skywalker, I don't want to see everyone turn into a Jedi. Everyone's wanting, like Poe to be a Jedi, Finn to be a Jedi. Like it's like you're a Jedi, you're a Jedi, you're a Jedi. Well, everybody's Jedi, but
you have to keep in mind with fan service too. There's a difference between fan service and having something there that feels natural to the story.
Yeah,
like a lot of people consider the Yoda. The people who don't like Last Jedi consider Yoda and Last Jedi as fan service, having the puppet Yoda.
No, that was needed.
That needed to be there. If it wasn't for Yoda popping up, Luke wouldn't have done what he did. And so let's say with Rise of Skywalker, let's say Hayden Christensen pops up as the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force Ghost appears, and Yoda's there, and hell, screw it, let's just go ahead and say it for the hell of it. Qui-Gon's there. Let's say Qui-Gon Jinn pops up as a Force Ghost. In episode 9, and IG-11's Force Ghost pops up like
all the younglings,
But let's say these Force Ghosts pop up. There's going to be people out there who are like, "Oh, that's just fan service. They just shoehorned it in there so they could." No, if it's natural to the story, if they have to be there to teach Rey a certain lesson before she goes and faces Sheev, that's necessary. That's part of the story. Is there something else they could have probably done? Maybe. But
So
it would seem more natural if you put yourself in that situation, and the only thing that's going to get across to you is if Luke's Force Ghost pops up with Anakin and says, you need to do this, this, and this, then that's what's going to happen.
but
I
do
don't
you
think
think
it's
that
fan
would get?
service.
Do you think that'd get a little? I don't mind ghosts, but if they show up, but don't you think some people would think that's a little familiar? You know, all these great masters are showing up because wouldn't that sound a little Endgame-ish?
Well,
All
that's what
these,
that's what they're doing. This
yeah.
is Star Wars Endgame. That's exactly what this is. And after seeing what they did with Endgame, I'm not putting anything past Disney, man. I'm not putting. I'm expecting full. I'm expecting. I don't even know what I'm not expecting anything.
See, I wouldn't mind if the ending to it is. I'm going to use the Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan, where you expect something big, but it's something kind of small and calm yet satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
See, I wouldn't mind, how they always make up that when the two are balanced, there's peace or something. If it balances and then there's quiet peace.
Yeah, no, it's possible, man. We don't know how it's going to end. We really don't. But once it's over, I mean, this is the end of the Skywalker saga, right? I mean, this is the final Skywalker film. After this, there's no more Skywalker stuff ever. Like this is it. So I'm going
said
back
that 10 years ago.
Well, they did, and then Disney bought it. So, I mean, Disney's not going to sell it anytime soon. It's still making money. Every one of the movies so far has been $1 billion, well, except for Solo, has been $1 billion movie. So I honestly, and Solo has a lot to do with this too. With the numbers that came in on Solo, I think that's why we're getting an Obi-Wan series instead of a movie. I think the Obi-Wan series was meant to be a movie to begin with, and when they saw the numbers come in for Solo, they went, ooh, might want to back off on these standalone films for a minute. We got Disney Plus coming out. Let's just do a series for that. Because they said Obi-Wan, that Ewan McGregor's been attached for years. 4 years. And he didn't say anything about it. Even before they even came up with the idea of Disney Plus, he was attached to an Obi-Wan project.
The one show that I would love to see, and as far as the live, I think it would be a perfect for live action TV to set it between like the same time that The Mandalorian is taking place in Rogue Squadron.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, do a live action Rogue Squadron with Wedge and all you don't even have to have Luke in it. You can have Luke mentioned in there,
Right.
But you can do a Rogue Squadron TV show. I would, because
you could even do Phantom Squadron, that squadron that he put together with what was it in the Aftermath trilogy, and you could even show the Battle of Jakku, and that would be a great way to show the Battle of Jakku from an X-wing pilot's point of view.
Now, other shows they could do. What I like about. I'm bringing Clone Wars. I like Clone Wars. I'm going to lie. I love Clone Wars because of what it could do. But how it would touch upon different genres. Like you get horror movie based episodes. You got some drama action. Hear me out. I'll be an open mind on this. What if they did a little mini run of it of like a musical in Star Wars?
No.
Now, hear me out. No, hear me out. Hear me out how it would work. Hear me out on how it would work. You know how they have
tried
you
that.
got
It
your
was called the
traditional
holiday
music.
special.
No. Calm down. Hear me out on this one. You know how you have your musical where they sing and it tells how they're feeling. It progresses the story. We've seen entertainers and singers like Sice Noodles and all that in the galaxy. What if it was one of those ones where they don't say it's just, oh, this is what I'm going through as a performer here. Oh, it's time for my number. They go out. You get the little number of them singing. They go back on. They continue what they're doing. Basically, it's a show about them being a performer in Jabba's palace or something.
Oh, my God. No.
Oh, no.
They tried that in Rebels, remember, with AP5? Remember that when he was floating out in space and he started singing like the Disney musical number, and then the ghost comes in and swoops him up, and they tried that, and I was like, no, God, please don't ever do that again. No, you can have musical numbers in Star Wars, like Sice Noodle in Jabba's palace, or the Cantina band playing, or the Cantina band playing in Maz Kanata's castle. That's cool. That's awesome. But no, if I see Rey pop up with a lightsaber and start singing some freaking young love song about Kylo Ren, no, I'm not doing this.
You'll see her flipping her arms in the air and a bunch of porgs land on her arms and she's all, oh.
My God. No, that will be the day. You know what? I'll tell you this right now. if Disney ever does a Star Wars musical, that will be the day I shut down the Star Wars Canon podcast because I'll be done. I'm gonna burn all this. I'll be done. Like that's it.
What do you do if you find out that Chapter 3 of Mandalorian is the musical episode? Because some TV shows.
Time to cancel my Disney Plus subscription.
Hey, I will say this about the Star Wars Holiday Special. The best part of that to me is the B. Arthur singing part because she has to dump that drink down that guy's head and it's freaking weird.
Now, here's an idea that they could do, and they could do it with the Mandalorian, and I think a lot of people may not like it, but I think with the way the Mandalorian is to do an episode with no dialogue.
Yes.
Just he gets his bounty. Like maybe the only dialogue is the beginning where he gets his bounty and he just goes and gets the bounty and there's no dialogue. It's just him going after the bounty. I'm like, that would be a cool episode.
Yeah. Well, like even like that reminds me of Last Jedi because they did a score only version of Last Jedi where it was only the music. And you watch it, but there was no dialogue. It was or sound effects. It was just the music, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome to sit and watch. So yeah, no dialogue episode would be freaking awesome.
I'm not gonna let it to my mind, but I want to see a musical episode with Grievous singing. I want to hear that.
Oh my god,
you can't
he has
tell me
such a lovely singing voice. He would sound like Marge Simpson if she smoked half a pack of cigarettes every hour. Like, all right, so.
All right, what's the next question?
I was going to just say we need to get on to the next question. So you guys think there's going to be more Star Wars series?
Yes.
Down the line? Yeah. Fair enough. All right, so let's get on to question number 2. Question number 2 this week comes from Tiffany Harris. And Tiffany says, "Hey, Brian, congrats on your new baby boy. Very excited for you. I listened to every episode of your show, and I can tell you are very passionate about Star Wars. Keep it up." Thank you very much, Tiffany. I appreciate it. My question is, why did Disney alter the Han and Greedo scene again? I was under the impression they couldn't alter anything George Lucas had already done. Was I wrong? Thanks in advance. Thanks for the question, Tiffany. And for those of you that don't know, now that Disney Plus is out, Danny didn't know this. When Disney Plus put on the original trilogy films, there's a small change to A New Hope again, and it's in that infamous Han and Greedo scene. Right? So apparently now it has been altered to where they both shoot at the exact same time now, and Han doesn't do that awkward like 6-inch move to the left. Like they altered it to where they shoot, if you do it frame by frame now, they shoot at the exact same time. A lot of people are kind of upset that this happened. But a lot of people don't realize George Lucas himself did this change for Disney Plus. So that's that. I mean, Mark, I don't know where you stand on the whole Han Greedo shooting first thing. For me, it was always Han shot. There was no first. There's no first
exactly.
if only one person shot. It was always Han
shot.
Han shot. That was it. So
Han shot before Greedo could.
Now they shoot at the same time, and that is the canon version. That the Disney Plus version of A New Hope is now the canon version, not my Blu-ray version. So, what do you think about this? I know you don't like the name Pablo Hidalgo. I know you don't like his name, but even he came out and said that the details around that situation are not canon. What's canon is that 2 of them walked into that booth and only 1 walked out.
Right.
So, how do you feel about them shooting at the exact same time now?
I don't know, since I haven't watched the actual scene. I'd actually have to watch the scene and see how it plays out.
It's noticeable. It's very noticeable.
No, very noticeable.
Yeah.
I think it's better than having it so that Greedo shoots first, because as you said, it looks really bad with them kind of making Han move to the. Yeah, it looks so. You can tell it's computer generated. You could tell it was post edited, and so. I'm with you. For me, it was simply Han shot. Mm-hmm. Not shot first. He simply shot Greedo before Greedo could shoot him. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing could have been. We don't. If they hadn't have changed it in the first place, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
And you can thank George Lucas for that.
Yeah,
he's the one that changed it in the first place. Danny, what do you think? Because keep in mind, this is a big telltale of Han's character in A New Hope.
Yeah.
To me, I'll be honest, I never really cared. because I never really noticed.
Mhm.
But I've seen the controversy, all that. But I think now, since Solo came out with the whole ending of him and Beckett, it should
Yeah.
be Han shot first because it would make sense because of what if you're watching these all in order and you watch Solo before this, it kind of makes sense. Sean shot first. He
Yeah.
learned, hey, shoot first.
You know
Yeah.
what?
My thoughts on it?
That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that because you're right. When he shot Beckett, he was just making sure nothing happened. And in A New Hope, now he lets it go far enough to where Greedo pops off a shot, and that could have been the end of him. That Han should have been the same Han that just blew him away with no
But Brian,
with no
we
thought.
don't know. We don't know what happened with Han between Solo.
That's true too. But he was still a scoundrel. That's what I'm getting at. It kind of affects. It kind of tells a lot about his character, because Han Solo's character, he has his own story arc in this, where he goes from scoundrel to rebellion hero, caring about something bigger than himself.
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory here. We don't know what we're doing with that character. You guys may know that. Here's my theory as a person. We don't know what happened between Han and Game of Thrones chick. I can't think of her name.
Kira.
What if there is a situation where he had a confrontation with her and he thought she was going to back and he drawled first, shot her, and here she was really not going to do anything bad and he
That's
killed her
possible.
and he now has a second thought of being the one shooting first.
See, that's possible. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I mean, but still, with what we have right now, you would think it would be a little bit consistent. And honestly, it was more consistent with the original theatrical version of him just, and that was it.
Yeah.
So at least we got Han shot first in Solo. At least we got that. But
Yeah.
but you're right. I hadn't thought about that whole scene with Beckett where he learned, because remember he told him people are predictable, and when he shot him, he's like, "You were right. I was gonna shoot you. I was gonna kill you, kid, and you made the right move." And I think I think Han should have just blew Greedo. I think he shouldn't even got in the booth with him. As soon as Greedo put that gun up to him, I think that should have been it. But it's interesting. What do you guys think about George Lucas coming in to change it though? Because he's the one that altered this.
You know, I love George, obviously, but at the same time, I mean, people talk about, all the things, all the complaints with the sequels. We saw what happened with episode 1 and 2, the prequels, when George has a free hand, when George doesn't have people saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, maybe," when he's just surrounded by yes men.
When there's people not
kinda
there to
disagree
body
on
check him.
that.
Yeah.
I think George had his idea. He just didn't know how to execute them well. But I noticed with episode 3, you could tell that's the one he was in charge and the one story he really wanted to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost like he was using episode 1 and 2 just to get to episode 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it was
Right.
just
Like he had the part.
See, I would not disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree, and especially when you get to the interesting part of episode 3. When you get to that last half, that's when it really that's perfect Star Wars telling, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of the prequels, but that last half of 3 was like, yes, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think Danny's onto something. I think 1 and 2 and the first half of 3 were just gear up to get to the.
It's almost like you ever write a book and you get to that part where you're just like, I don't want to write. I have to do it to get to the part I want. I think that's what George was at. He's like, I'm at the part I really am not into, but I have to tell it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, but still at the same time, he didn't have like Harrison Ford saying, "You can write this crap, George, but you can't say it."
Yeah.
These were young actors that were just like, "Okay, sure, this is my line.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't like sand. Okay."
Well, also by the time you got to the prequels, also because George didn't direct all 3 of the classics, he directed the first one.
Yeah.
And that was it, and then somebody else directed the next 2. But with the prequels, the thing is, it was a different time also because you've got these actors coming in and these production crews coming in. And to them, on the classic trilogy, this guy's name is George Lucas. He's the director. He came up with the idea. Screw him. He doesn't know what he's doing. When you fast forward to the 90s and we're making the prequels, everybody's like, oh my God, this is George fucking Lucas. Like, oh my God, like everybody worships George Lucas at this point, where this guy made Star Wars. Oh my God, yes, yes, sir, yes, we can definitely do that. Yes, sir, absolutely. Yeah, you know.
Yes, I don't like
Yeah,
sand.
yeah.
I don't like sand.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like sand either. I don't like sand either. That's a great line.
I think what bring in talking about Marvel, I think what Marvel works is they have one person overseeing it, but they let everyone do their thing, you know, and they can go. And the one guy can go, "Hey, you're getting a little out of line. Draw back a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where Star Wars goes off. You know, like I'm not gonna lie, when they got rid of the Phil Lord and all them,
Yeah.
so I thought, you know, maybe the solo improvising thing probably would have worked a little better. You know, it'd be well, like I said, we'll never know that.
Right. Yeah, we won't. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Rogue One was like a war movie
Yeah.
more than, you know.
Well, see what
And
happened with Rogue One. Also, they were allowed to kind of go off and do their own thing, and then when Disney started, I mean, when they started looking at the final product, they're like, "Oh crap, we have to reshoot like 80% of this now." And then that's when they stepped in, and was like, "No, you got to do this, 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 and this." And then with Solo, they were like, "No, you're not sticking to this. You're gone. Bye." And then they hired somebody who actually would do it. Same thing with the Boba Fett movie we were supposed to get. You know, like he was Josh Trank, very unprofessional. Did want to do what they wanted to do. You're gone. And that's part of the rumor of why Benioff and Weiss left, is because they had all these ideas, but Lucasfilm was like, no, we want you to do this, this, and this. And then they said no, and they left.
this is my thing. Kathleen Kennedy has done some good movie stuff, but I get the film like, does she really know and really understand Star Wars? That's why I said I always think Dave Filoni should, because he worked with George for how many years in Clone Wars, got to know it, understood it, and notice anything he does, you know, people enjoy.
But at the same time, though, Kathleen Kennedy has been with George for even longer.
Oh yeah. She was on the original Indiana Jones movie. She was on E.T. Like she has
been there since the beginning.
Yeah,
she's been with George since the beginning.
She worked on Empire. Like it was so far back.
She goes way farther back than
Filoni. The thing with Dave Filoni, though, is you've got with Marvel, right? I know we keep comparing Marvel, but it's a great comparison. They're both owned by the same company, and they're both the same kind of franchise. It's just one's being run differently than the other. With Marvel, you've got Kevin Feige in charge of the overall thing. This is the story we're telling. You tell this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit on, and then that's our end game all the way down there. And we're going to slowly get to that. You need somebody like that with Star Wars, and we don't have anybody like that. And I think Danny's right. Dave Filoni is the man to do it.
Yeah.
Now here's the Kathleen Kennedy with you, Mark. I'm not going to mention where we work, whatever, but think of it this way. Yeah, Kathleen has been with George for so long, but does she understand it? For example, maybe the person that we have in charge of our job worked with the original creator of his job, but do you really think they know how to run it like that person did?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, or Dave may actually go, you know, I've worked on each I know how George would make these. I've had, you know, maybe Kathleen just sat there and said, "Oh, I see how he does it. I think I can do that."
Yeah, but see, just being president of Lucasfilm, that's not a creative job. That's not a job that involves any creativity. They need to hire somebody like a Kevin Feige. And now I know Kevin Feige is president of Marvel Studios. I get that. And Kathleen Kennedy is president of Lucasfilm. But Marvel Studios makes Marvel movies. Lucasfilm makes more than Star Wars. They make Indiana Jones. They make all these other, you know, it's more than just Star Wars. So I think they need to honestly look at Dave Filoni, and you know, we're going to talk about Dave Filoni here in just a minute on the next question. But he's had his live action directing debut now.
Mm-hmm.
We know he can do it, and I think he's proven himself time and time again with Clone Wars, Rebels, and not so much with Resistance. But I can appreciate Resistance for what it is. But the man knows how to tell a story.
Yeah.
The way I feel about, you know, when they get George back involved, because, you know, they hear the story, you know, I hear conflicting things on my end, is we're going to do something different what George wanted, and then it's like here, George is like, "Here, Disney, here's my baby, hold it," and the baby spits up on Disney, "Here, take it back." That's what it feels like half the time.
The other thing about George Lucas is this. Everybody talks about how they wanted to see what George Lucas's episode 7, 8, 9 would have been. And now we know. He came out like a year and a half ago and said what his trilogy was about. And it was, I kid you not, it was on the biotic level of the universe. Literally microscopic level with midichlorians. That's what the next trilogy was going to be.
Yeah, because was even the Clone Wars episode, the Yoda one, that was like the season finale, whatever, was even
Yeah.
gearing towards that with the wheels and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was going to go into the microbiotic realm, the quantum realm, if you will, of the Star Wars universe on the microscopic level. I don't want to see that. I don't
Yeah.
care about that. There's a reason midichlorians have not been mentioned in the sequel trilogy. There's a reason. There's a reason they haven't been mentioned in
Like
any
poetry.
canon material. Yeah, I kid you not, out of all these books up here that I've got, the entire canon so far, midichlorians has not been mentioned one time.
Hey,
Not
I'm gonna
once.
remember a conversation we had before I talked to you about it on one of your podcasts. Where I asked, do you think any element of any way of time travel would be introduced? And what did Rebels do?
Yeah, you're right. They did it with the World Between Worlds.
So, there's some eras that they haven't touched upon yet. And,
Yeah.
they may get to that microscopic whatever.
Hey,
Yeah.
completely off topic for a second. You brought up the World Between Worlds. Let me ask you guys your opinion on this real quick before we get to the third question. I talked about this on the podcast, oh God, 5 or 6 episodes ago, or maybe 3 episodes ago. There's a theory going around, and maybe you guys have heard it, maybe you haven't, that at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, toward the end of it, you find out that Palpatine in this movie is actually Palpatine from like pre-Phantom Menace, like 10 years before Phantom Menace, who crossed over using the World Between Worlds, or even even after Rebels, he crosses into the future to see what's going on, and he senses, this is their words, not mine, the most powerful Force user ever, Rey, and takes her back to before the Phantom Menace, and she escapes, cuts herself off from the Force, goes by the name Shmi Skywalker, and gives birth to
Oh my
Anakin
God.
Skywalker.
I've heard
on
that
Tatooine.
one.
You've heard
I've
that
heard
theory?
that. I have heard that theory.
What? I hate this theory. I pray to Christ this isn't real. Please, God, no. I will seriously be done with Star Wars if they do. If they end the Skywalker saga way. But what do you guys think of the theory?
I'm thinking IG-811 is going to go back, walk up to Smee and go, hey, I'm IG-88. Are you Sarah Connor?
She would be the Sarah Connor at that point.
I don't mind, like, if, like, I've heard with time, I have heard that theory, and yeah,
I know it's bad. I know.
I know, it's like I heard someone doing the whole thing about that. I'm just like,
Yeah, no.
eh?
Please, God,
Yeah,
no. Because then the theory also went on to say that Rey and Kylo hook up, and that's how she gets with I'm with Mark, and that's how she gets pregnant with Anakin.
Sorry.
And then when Anakin's born, he's actually his own great grandfather. Because of the circle back around, and Rey's just in this infinite time loop over and over and over again.
Oh,
please,
I just have
no.
the old country music song
Galaxy.
going up my head. I'm my own grandpa.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like,
So
You know what
God.
that makes me think of? That makes me think of that Family Guy Star Wars. I'm from Arnold. We are the Mississippi of the galaxy.
Right? I just wanted your guys' opinion on that because
Hey,
I got that mailbag question a while back, and I wasn't sure how to actually handle it.
I think, and this is going to cause some controversy. Someone's going to hate me for it. You guys might. But it may even make people think of Last Jedi. I think the Death Star blew up and Palpatine was like Leia and flew to the nearest Star Destroyer and went to hiding.
He Mary Poppins to cross space to the Star Destroyer.
So, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
That's funny. All right.
Uh,
Let's get on to the last question here. You guys want to talk about some Dave Filoni? We'll talk about Dave Filoni. Tyler Wendell says, when are we going to get Dave Filoni to direct a live-action Star Wars film? The man bleeds Star Wars and is the heir apparent to the maker himself. The best decision Kathleen Kennedy could make right now is to give him a trilogy. Agree or disagree? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Danny, you're the Dave Filoni freak. What do you think?
If anyone has to make a spin-off movie on it, he has to make it Ahsoka, a Star Wars story.
You could tell a story with Ahsoka and make it a trilogy and make it interesting.
Yeah.
He understands her. He's the perfect person to make a live-action Ahsoka movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my only concern is, since we're talking about someone who hasn't done a live action, as far as I don't think he's done a live action movie.
He did the first episode of Mandalorian.
Right, but he hasn't done a full.
He hasn't done
movie.
a film. Yeah.
So I want to see more of him on TV, live action TV, so I can get a sense of how he does, You have to then see like, okay, now give him about two or three episodes, maybe 3 or 4 episodes of The Mandalorian, live action to really get his feet wet, because directing animation is completely different than directing
Yes.
live action.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you're completely different. So get a couple of episodes in there where we can say like, okay, this is his style of directing. This is how, so we can see. Then we'll start talking about a live action movie for him.
Now, when you say him making a movie, are you talking just a live action? Because you say you want him not making a movie. If you just say right, like, well, he's done a movie before.
Yeah.
Clone Wars movie.
But again,
it's not.
Animation is completely different. Animation is completely different.
Animation, you can actually make your characters do what you want them to do. With live action, you have to coax it out of your actors.
Yeah.
You actually have to coax it.
Yeah.
Now the question is, if he does a live action, do you think? I'm trying to think about it. Do you think it depends on what kind he makes, because he's going to try and make everything sync up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So say he makes an Ahsoka movie and he makes it take place during the Clone Wars. And to me, Anakin Skywalker, what you get in the Clone Wars and in the movie, they seem like two different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's he going to get... I mean, it'd be cool to see Hayden Christensen coming back, but how are you going to get the two syncing up? The
Anakin being different in the films, that's George Lucas's fault. That's not Hayden Christensen's fault. That's George Lucas.
Yeah.
That's a directing error. If you had the right director working with Hayden Christensen, I guarantee you could get Clone Wars Anakin.
Yeah.
You could do it. But I honestly think Dave Filoni needs to be working on film. I do. I think he needs to be overseeing all of it. A trilogy? I'm not sure about a trilogy yet. Give him a standalone. I want to see what he can do. I want more original stories though, and new characters. But yeah, give it to him, man. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
I think if he does a trilogy, what he could do, and it could be a trilogy that takes place over a different period. Like I say, Ahsoka, I really think he should do an Ahsoka. He could do this first one of Ahsoka. What happened after Ahsoka left, I'm not a Jedi no more, and do a story there. Then we could do one in Rebels, before she formed with the Ghost Crew. And then the third one, after Return of the Jedi. Maybe we see some interaction with Luke.
Yeah. That's one thing, real quick, that's one thing that I think they missed an opportunity on Rebels. That season finale, or the series finale, when you see Ahsoka standing there with the staff, instead of Sabine, or Sabine was standing there, Ahsoka walked up. I honestly think Luke Skywalker should have been standing next to her. Had you seen Luke Skywalker in the black clothing with his lightsaber hanging on his belt, standing next to Ahsoka with his arms crossed, just like kind of like looking at Sabine, like they were going to go find this other Jedi? Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
Mark, what do you think? You think Filoni's ready for a trilogy?
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't know about a trilogy, but one standalone film. And you said something there that kind of piqued my interest is let's give us more new characters.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing movies about, Ahsoka or stuff like that. But there's a reason for me why I loved Rogue One. It wasn't just because it was a good story, but it was because it gave us new characters, and characters that are interesting and fun, and yes, they died at the end, but we all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But still, to give us, and to give us stories and eras that haven't really been touched on. So like we've touched on, we've hit the Clone Wars, we've hit, the Rebellion era, all these different eras. Let's do Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that period between, with the novels that they're writing, the comics and the novels that they're writing, between Empire and Jedi, or between, that period, with the Rebellion on the run. Let's look at stories from different points of view. Let's look at. I'd love to see a movie or a series where the focus, instead of being the focus on the fight of the rebellion against the Empire, let's look at it from the Imperial point of view.
Yeah. That's one thing that Canon has really done well, though, is humanizing the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
They've really done. what this new canon has actually done is taken the black and the white and focused right here, like in the gray area in the middle. And it's, I mean, Rogue One even did it with the Rebel Alliance. She always thought the Rebel Alliance were these good guys. They couldn't do any wrong. And then you've got Cassian Andor shooting contacts in the back and escaping. Like, that's dark.
Can,
you know?
Speaking of the two sides, I want your guys' thoughts on it. I heard it online. Maybe it was a source, leak, whatever. But they were saying it was a theory. What if, because, you know, isn't there somewhere in the canon or somewhere that Sidious took on Maul while he was still with Plagueis? I heard that somewhere. I could be wrong.
That he what?
Oh, he took on Maul as an apprentice while he was still
with Plagueis.
apprentice to Plagueis.
Oh, I don't know.
I know that was in the old canon.
Mm-hmm.
In the old EU, that was because he actually, in the old EU, he actually killed Plagueis shortly after in episode 3 in the old canon, because he got him. They were at a party. No, I think it was episode 1. It was episode 1. They were at a party, and he got Plagueis drunk and killed him while he was drunk.
Wait. So I'm a canon junkie. I haven't hardly read any of the EU. Darth Plagueis died during episode 1 in the old EU.
1 or 2. He was alive. Yes, he was still alive because he in the old canon he wanted a different name, obviously outside of his, and the story goes is that they were at some party. And it might have even been episode 3. It might have been at the same. It was. Now think about it. It was episode 3. He didn't die until episode 3.
What?
He was at the big when Palpatine became Chancellor, and he's talking to Anakin at the whatever that big
the opera house.
Opera. That's when he killed him. It was after that he went back to his apartment. And Plagueis was there, and they were doing something. He got Plagueis basically blackout drunk and killed him.
So he told Anakin about it before he did it?
He told Anakin about.
Oh my god!
I'll have to go back and remember, but it was Plagueis was still alive during the prequels.
That's
at
crazy.
Least through episode 2.
I never knew that. Yeah. I never knew that. I always thought I always thought he had killed Plagueis before episode 1. That's really interesting because. I'm working on rebuilding my EU collection, and I've almost got all of the old pre-Phantom Menace stuff. And Plagueis is the only one I'm missing. But I've got all the Old Republic stuff that I'm trying to kind of go through again. And the only reason I'm going through it is to kind of find the comparisons between canon and the EU, see what they're bringing in and stuff. And by the time I read the EU, I can get to an ending point where I can be like, oh, well, read all that. So I'm trying to build it back up. But I didn't know that about Plagueis. That's interesting. I'm glad you said that.
Well, I hate to say, but I am running low on battery power, so I'm going to have to.
No problem. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Hey, real quick before we wrap up, Mark, where can everybody find you at, bud?
All right. Well, you can find me each and every week on War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, where we are right now actually preparing for one of our biggest, most ambitious episodes we've ever done, our year-end show. We are going to be doing the Trial of Darth Vader. Ooh. And we have, hopefully, everything works out right. We actually have a special guest that will be appearing. C. Andrew Nelson, who did the voice of Vader for a lot of the games. And also played Vader for anytime you've seen the old commercials from the prequel trilogy series with Vader, that was C. Andrew Nelson.
Cool.
He has been in the Vader costume more than any other person in Luke, the official Vader costume more than any other person. And we've already done an interview with him, and he has agreed to come back and reprise his role as Darth Vader. So, but you can find us, just look for on anchor.fm, look under Realm of the Mist podcast. You can find us there. War of the Stars on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at John Mark Tolly 1 because I'm, of course, the number one John Mark Tolly on Twitter, and on Facebook at Mark Tolly. So,
right on. That I'm gonna have to tune in for that episode because that sounds cool as shit. Danny, why don't you tell us about the podcast you're thinking about launching out? I know you were talking about wanting to launch one.
Well, first I gotta say, Mark, it was really nice to meet you. It was great to hear your side of things and
All right.
get to hear some other things. And nice to know that you're not too far away from where I'm at. Yeah, I've watched Brian, your podcast, and I've heard other people talk, and I thought, I might try and get into it. It's nothing too set in stone. Still trying to work out the bugs, figure it out. But I'm hoping to get one. I got an account set up on Anchor, trying it. It's going to be called Daniel Plus, and what that's going to be is I'm going to be watching some Disney Plus stuff. I'm going to review my thoughts on it. Mandalorian may be part of that. Some weird movies I've never seen, classic movies. I may even talk about some other nerdy things. What's going on live. I'm a big Funko fan. I may talk about that collecting. One thing I want to try and do, and we talked a little about on here, is storytelling. I've always wanted to sit and write a story, but I get that writer's block, whatever. Well, I figured, hey, on this podcast, I could just tell the story I want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm hoping to bring. It'll be called Daniel Plus. When it's going to happen, I don't know, but I'm working out the bugs, and I'm glad I got you two to ask questions on how to work this podcast. And I really enjoy guest starring and talking about stuff on these podcasts, which makes me want to get onto it. And
Yeah,
like
man.
Brian said before, I got a Facebook group called Cinema Masters. I'm hardly on it. I've been busy, but when I get on there, I make sure I'm putting something good. So if you guys want to check it out, You'll see some other movie-related things on there.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, guys, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. I sure appreciate it. If you're new to the podcast and you like what you hear, be sure to give me a follow on whatever app or site you're listening in on. Check out the YouTube channel for upcoming reviews, interviews, and reaction videos, as well as the Facebook page to stay up to date on what's going on with the Star Wars Canon podcast. Richard J. and Nick Albers are doing a great job running that over there. Be sure to check out the Patreon account as well if you'd like to help support the Canon podcast. If you'd like to get a question on the podcast, you can send it into StarWarsCanonLibrary@gmail.com, or you can or if you have the Anchor app, you can record a message that way and send it to me. All those links can be found in the description of this episode. So like I said, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Always.